hidden in the still waters of the Venetian lagoon, lies a speck of land so steeped in horror that it was literally removed from maps. This is Poveglia, Italy's forbidden island. It began as a peaceful refuge, a 5th century sanctuary for people fleeing barbarian invasions after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. But that peace, it didn't last. Over centuries, Poveglia transformed from village to quarantine station to asylum, from safe haven to human dumping ground. Now it's overgrown, crumbling and strictly off limits. Locals call it cursed. Fishermen won't sail near it. Even Google Earth won't give you a clear view. Ghost hunters are obsessed. Historians are disturbed. And the question remains, what really happened here? And why does it feel like the island is still screaming? In this video, we're going beyond the folklore, into the dark, documented history of one of the most haunted places on Earth. Poveglia Island, a sliver of land nestled in the Venetian lagoon, carries a legacy far darker than its picturesque surroundings suggest. Though seldom mentioned in history books, this small island is often called one of the most haunted places on Earth. Its descent into infamy began in 1776, when the Republic of Venice designated it as a lazaretto, a quarantine station for those afflicted with the plague. During the bubonic plague outbreaks of the 18th century, all ships approaching Venice were stopped at islands like Poveglia. Suspected cases were forcibly removed from the ships, some dead, some dying, and deposited onto the island. There was no cure. There was no escape. Many were left to perish in makeshift quarantine camps, or to be thrown into open plague pits where the bodies were burned. By 1793, Poveglia had transformed from a holding station into a full-blown plague colony during a resurgence of the Black Death. Eyewitnesses of the era described smoke constantly rising from the island as corpses were incinerated en masse. While accurate records are difficult to obtain, historians and archaeologists estimate over 160,000 people died on the island over the centuries. In fact, Italian archaeologist Dr. Luigi Fossati once confirmed that up to 50% of the island's soil contains human remains, a macabre mixture of ash, bone, and dirt. But the suffering didn't end with the plague. In 1922, the Italian government repurposed the island's existing buildings into a psychiatric hospital, a place meant to house the mentally ill, but which became synonymous with neglect and cruelty. With little oversight, the facility reportedly used primitive treatments like electroshock therapy and solitary confinement. Patients were often abandoned by families and forgotten by society. And then there's the legend that still haunts local memory, the Mad Doctor of Poveglia. Though no official records confirm his identity, numerous oral histories describe a physician working at the facility who conducted unauthorized lobotomies on patients. Crude, invasive, and often fatal, these procedures were allegedly carried out in a makeshift operating room at the base of the island's bell tower. Eventually, the doctor is said to have succumbed to madness himself. According to stories told by former nurses and local residents, he either threw himself or was pushed from the bell tower. He survived the fall, but lay broken on the ground. Before dying, he reportedly whispered to those who approached that the shadows were dragging him to hell. Though the hospital officially closed in 1968, the island was left abandoned and remains so to this day. Locals in the nearby town of Malamocco say they still hear the bell tolling at night, despite it having been removed decades ago. Even now, Poveglia is strictly off-limits to the public, and the Italian government has repeatedly rejected development proposals due to its dark history and dangerous ruins. Few dare to step foot on its shores, and those who have, paranormal investigators, urban explorers, and thrill seekers, often report overwhelming feelings of dread, strange whispers, and sudden nausea. This is not just a story of forgotten history. It's a graveyard island built on pain, grief, and silence. Step onto Poveglia, and something changes. Visitors, however few and rare, often report an immediate visceral reaction: nausea, dizziness, a heavy pressure in the chest, as if the air itself is pressing down. For some, it begins the moment they arrive by boat, even before their feet touch the soil. Numerous reports over the years describe unexplained phenomena: unseen hands tugging at clothes, disembodied whispers, and footsteps echoing through the decayed halls, despite no one else being there. Some describe overwhelming feelings of sadness or dread, without knowing why. In 2009, the American paranormal series Ghost Adventures filmed a now infamous episode on Poveglia. The crew, Zach Bagans, Nick Groff, and Aaron Goodwin, set up infrared cameras and EMF detectors in the old hospital ruins. They claimed to experience physical attacks, with scratches appearing on their bodies during filming. In one moment captured on camera, Groff became visibly disturbed, claiming something tried to take over his body. The crew left shaken, and one member later vowed never to return. But it isn't just entertainment television fueling the island's legend. In January 2017, the European Paranormal Activity Society, EPS, gained rare overnight access to the island for a controlled investigation. Their published findings included unexplained EMF spikes in the former patient quarters, well beyond natural levels. Thermal imaging anomalies, showing heat signatures where no living being was present. A chilling childlike scream, captured on digital audio devices during the early morning hours. EPAS investigators confirmed no children were present, and all team members were accounted for at the time. They weren't the first to hear voices. In 2005, a team of local historians and amateur ghost hunters reported hearing Latin prayers and chanting, despite no religious activity being known to occur there in over half a century. One Italian photographer, who wished to remain anonymous, told La Nuova Venezia in 2011, "It's not ghosts I fear. It's the feeling that the island is alive and watching you." Skeptics argue that the sensations and sightings may be due to psychological suggestion, a natural reaction to the island's horrific history, combined with its eerie isolation. Standing atop soil infused with the ashes of thousands, surrounded by ruins of suffering, perhaps the mind fills in the blanks. But believers say otherwise. They claim that the intense trauma experienced by plague victims and psychiatric patients left residual energy, fragments of consciousness still imprinted on the island. These are not just hauntings, they argue, but replays of unresolved suffering, looping endlessly in time. A few even claim a curse lingers. In local Venetian folklore, it is said that those who step foot on Poveglia are marked. L'isola ti prende il cuore. The island takes your heart, they say. Some visitors report recurring nightmares, illness, or emotional breakdowns after returning home. In one notable case, an American tourist who illegally landed on the island in 2014 reportedly developed severe insomnia and anxiety for weeks afterward, though medical evaluations found no physical cause. There are no shops, no residents, no light after sundown, just silence, and whatever still walks there. Is it haunted, cursed, or simply steeped in the psychological scars of history? One thing is certain. Once you've been to Poveglia, part of you stays behind. For skeptics, Poveglia is the perfect case study in psychological suggestion. A deserted island, cut off from the mainland. Crumbling 18th century buildings overtaken by ivy. The skeletal remains of plague pits and asylum wards. Its grotesque past, plague, madness, and death, is so vivid that the mind doesn't need ghosts to be haunted. As one psychologist from the University of Padua put it, Poveglia is an atmospheric pressure cooker for fear. The idea is simple. The island's history and isolation ignite the imagination. We feel what we expect to feel: fright, unease, the sense of being watched. That's the rational view. But to paranormal investigators, Poveglia is something else entirely, a consistent, measurable anomaly. Over the past 2 decades, dozens of international ghost hunting teams have made the difficult and often illegal journey to the island. Their evidence, while not accepted by mainstream science, has built a growing body of strange occurrences. Phantom voices, often in Italian or Latin, captured on EVP, electronic voice phenomena, recordings. One UK-based team claimed to record a voice whispering, "Lasciami," leave me. Shadow figures, tall and fast-moving, appearing in infrared footage in the old hospital corridors. Cold spots, sudden drops in temperature by as much as 10 degrees Celsius in areas with no airflow or windows. Electromagnetic spikes recorded in derelict buildings without any modern wiring or active energy sources. Some of the most unsettling accounts don't involve what is seen or heard, but what is felt. Multiple visitors have reported a sudden, overwhelming urge to flee, panic, heart palpitations, and an irrational fear that builds until escape is the only thought. According to a 2010 interview with Il Gazzettino, one former Italian Navy officer who took part in an unofficial landing described it like this: "It was like being unwelcome, not by people, by the island itself." Even hardened urban explorers, used to derelict asylums and abandoned fortresses across Europe, describe Poveglia as uniquely oppressive. One YouTuber, known for documenting haunted locations, told followers, "It's the only place where I genuinely felt like I wasn't alone, and not in a good way." Despite the danger, despite legal bans, despite the choking atmosphere of despair, people keep returning. Historians, ghost hunters, thrill seekers. Something about Poveglia calls them back. Is it curiosity, or something more? A pull, a whisper, a mystery waiting to be understood or devoured. Poveglia remains abandoned, its once functional buildings now skeletal husks, collapsing under the weight of time, salt, and sorrow. Ivy chokes the crumbling bell tower. The hospital wards sag under broken ceilings and wind-swept decay. Despite its location in the Venice Lagoon, mere kilometers from one of the most visited cities in the world, no one lives here. No one dares. The Italian government has tried multiple times to breathe life into the island. Most notably in 2014, it auctioned off a 99-year lease to businessman Luigi Brugnaro, who proposed transforming the island into a luxury wellness resort. But the public reaction was immediate and hostile. Activists, historians, and locals launched a campaign to stop the development. Some cited the need to preserve Poveglia's historical legacy. Others blamed a string of strange mishaps and halted progress on something darker. Even before Brugnaro withdrew, contractors reportedly walked off the site, citing unease and mechanical failures. Whispers of a curse resurfaced in the media. Some Venetians claimed the island didn't want to be disturbed and would never allow itself to be reclaimed. Indeed, over the last century, every proposal for redevelopment, resorts, rehabilitation centers, public parks, has mysteriously failed. Theories range from political gridlock to financing problems. But in Venice's cafes and on its gondolas, locals will tell you it's something else entirely. The dead won't rest, so neither will the island. In recent years, cultural preservationists have proposed turning Poveglia into a memorial site, a solemn monument to centuries of human suffering and abandonment. Historians argue that it's more than just a haunted ruin. It's a reflection of how societies have historically treated the sick, the poor, and the mentally ill, out of sight, out of mind, and often out of care. But until such a plan gains traction, Poveglia remains in stasis, a place between worlds, too sacred for tourism, too cursed for commerce, a sanctuary of pain, a forgotten grave. And perhaps that's the true terror of Poveglia, not the ghosts, not the legends, but the reminder of how easily we erase those we deem inconvenient, a scar, not just on Venice, but on history itself. Is Poveglia haunted by spirits, or by the sins of our past? Maybe it doesn't matter, because some places carry memories so heavy, so soaked in blood and sorrow, that they echo forever. Poveglia isn't just a ghost story. It's a warning, a mirror held up to humanity, showing what happens when fear and cruelty go unchecked. Thanks for watching, and remember, some islands are abandoned for a reason. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, stay curious, and stay away from Poveglia.